with the legendary, the wizard himself, Jeff Reese, head of the Seven Nation Army.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. How you doing today?
Good, man. It's been a while coming. I know you guys had James on, Delaney, and Tyler Calvi, and Jimmy Hedis, and Jordan, Galasso. And they all kind of brought my name up. So here I am.
A lot of guys, a lot of them we did pretty recently. James Delaney was all the way back, though, like bare bones. That was
first
like episode.
First camera episode.
That was our first camera episode. James Delaney, episode 10. That was an old school one.
So I really, really wish we could have got those I Hate Jeff Reese T-shirts.
Yeah, man. They're
what are those about?
So I'll tell you what that's about. That came around in 2012 or 13, maybe. At that time, I was still actively competing. We had just had a major fraction split within the gym that like Tyler and I used to be at. So a lot of us that left had a big chip on our shoulder, like a big chip. And at that time, Tyler and I were training for competition. So it was competition mode. Like what you guys get daily now out of Tyler and I is nowhere near what it was back then. It was, it was kill or be killed in that room. And every training session, during a roll, somebody would go, "Man, I fucking hate you. Man, I fucking hate you. Man," because I was just brutalizing people, And then one day I went, "Man, shut up. Put it on a fucking T-shirt." And one of the guys went, put it on a T-shirt, came in as a joke, and I said, "Oh, we're running with this."
Oh, yeah.
I hate Jeff Reese.
I have sold hundreds of those shirts.
Damn,
like,
I'm
talking
one of those.
hundreds of those shirts. Yeah,
That's tough.
Yeah, they're literally everywhere. People are walking through airports, and somebody will go, "Who's Jeff Reese?" And then, tell the story and whatever. But
that's cool. That's interesting though that you talk about having a different mindset when you're competing.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah,
you have to. I was just having this conversation with one of my private lessons yesterday about the hobbyist, the Jiu Jitsu competitor, and the MMA fighter. Now, I don't really do as much MMA anymore as I did way back when it first started here in PA. But the hobbyist is there to have a good time. They're there for fun, and it should be like a very customer service oriented experience for them. From the time they walk in the door, "Hey man, how you doing? You've been up to headquarters. The moment somebody walks in the door, "Hey, how are you? Good to see you." Blah blah blah. Right? And they want to be able to go to work the next day with no injuries. But they want to know they're getting top quality jiu-jitsu, and that's what we provide for them. Once you tell me you want to compete, that's different now, right? Okay, I want to win a gold medal at NAGA. I want to do this. I want to do that. Scranton Scramble, right? That was all hands on deck. You're turning it up, and I don't care anymore about your excuses. It's like, "Oh, I'm not going to make Mondays, open mat practice because blah, blah, blah." All right. Cool. Where's your weight at? Where's this? Where's that?
Yeah.
You just told me you want a victory. You want to be on the podium, and now you're giving me an excuse. So you get a little bit edgier part of me then. I'm going to be a little meaner to you.
Yeah.
But in a good way. Like, you just need it. That's what a coach does. You know, if you didn't come up in a sport where you had a coach chewing your ass out.
Yeah.
Did you really come up in that sport? I know my coaches would chew your asses out when you got out of line. So you get that. You tell me you want to fight MMA, you're subhuman now. I don't care if you woke up that morning and your dog died and your grandmother's sick or whatever, because you are now stepping into an arena where you could possibly die.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared, and you need to be in that physical, mental, emotional state of, hey, I could die today. So there is no excuses once you say MMA. Now it's, I'm going to treat you less than human. And that's for your betterment.
Yeah,
it's not,
survival.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's kill or be killed in that cage. Like that person wants to kill you, and you should have that same mentality if you
absolutely,
plan on
100%.
succeeding. Right?
Yeah. So everybody gets a little bit different version of me based on their goals.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting when I heard a guy that we had on the podcast. His name is Ryan Benoit. He fought as a featherweight in the UFC. And he talked about prior to him having kids, he was able to flip that switch whenever he wanted. And he was able to be in this mode where he was almost like a psycho. Like he just wanted to hurt people, and he just put himself in this state. And after he had kids, in retrospect, he looked at himself and it was like, man, like that's crazy. And he's still competing to this day in bare knuckle, but he said that he doesn't feel he can access that switch as easily as he used to be.
At least that level of it. Like that's the crazy part, is like that killer mindset like that those guys stepping into the octagon have.
Yeah. Well, you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what your job is now. Your job is violence.
And you're a father, correct?
I am.
So
yeah.
how was
grandfather? Yeah.
How was that transition for you?
You still have access to the Switch?
I do. I very rarely flip it. There was a time recently where I did, and it was warranted. But I don't like it. I don't like to do it. But when it's warranted, it's warranted. You know, sometimes violence is the answer.
Do you think that that's important for a man to be able to do, to be able to flip that switch? Or necessary? Maybe?
It's necessary. It's necessary if you are a provider for a family. Because what are you going to do when somebody comes to take something from your family that you don't want to give them? Whether that's, you know, your belongings, your child, you know, trying to be kidnapped, your wife trying to, like, if you don't have access to that primal, I will hurt you and possibly kill you. If you don't have that switch, I don't know how you call yourself a provider. You got to have that switch.
So I think that there's something to that, but I'm curious, what do you think it means to be a martial artist in modern day? Because I think any man with a boatload of testosterone can flip the switch and be angry.
He can,
But a martial artist, I feel, should be held to a higher regard in terms of how he regulates his emotions and how he deals with situations that can be potentially harmful.
Well, 100%. You have to be able to regulate your emotions.
Yeah.
You know, current hot button, you read all this stuff now. Everybody's a stoic now, right? Everybody's a stoic.
Yeah.
I grew up as a stoic. That's why people have a very hard time interacting with me, because I'm very black and white, straightforward. I don't fluff you. I live focused. I live, you know, controlled. Everything in my life is very, very disciplined. You know, just pursuing that good life through having self-control and not having damaging emotions.
Sure.
Right? Everybody's so emotional.
Yeah.
And that's why our society is so fucked up right now, because everything's hot button. So I had that before martial arts. So I think that helped me when I started training jiu-jitsu.
So in like the modern day where there's unlimited access to information and there's immediate access to porn, and with all this crazy shit going on with people being emotional and people trying to raise fear and anxiety in people, and there's narratives and agendas, and it's not like futile Japan. So like, what does it mean to be a martial artist in 2023?
I think the term martial artist, I think, for me anyway, starts to get a little McDojo-ish. You know, I'm a martial artist, and I'm going to harness my chi, and I'm going to, you know, do the jiu-jitsu doesn't have, proper jiu-jitsu doesn't have that. There's some places that do that. But for me, it's not a martial art. It's a martial way of living. Martial means fighting. Martial means military, militant, right? There's nothing, there is no art to war. There's strategy, there's mechanics to it, and what have you, but it's not an artful endeavor. There's nothing artful about war. There's nothing artful about combat. So why would you call it a martial artist? I know that's the term, but I think it's a misleading term to say I'm a martial artist.
It could be rather ugly.
It can be. It can be. Yeah.
That's an interesting take. You typically hear the complete opposite. Like most guys that I know that operate in like the world of MMA would take the different stance. Like it's very graceful, it's very artistic. So it's very interesting. You're one of the first guys I've ever heard like express it that way.
I'm not saying it's not, because it certainly is, right? One of my favorite sayings is "Soldiers march, warriors dance." Right? I view myself as a warrior, so we're gonna dance. But I mean, martial artist. I don't identify. I personally don't identify myself as a martial artist. I just don't.
Yeah.
You know.
I like the comparison to war though, because like exactly how you worded it, war isn't very artistic. It's kind of brutal.
Yes.
Well, it's very brutal.
It's brutal.
It's not like a painting on a wall.
Finality. Yes.
I guess people kind of like make it out to be artful or artistic, but in theory
they can be in theory, right? Movies are enticing. You know, the fantasy of you know, Musashi is enticing, right? The Five Rings, The Art of War, like all this stuff. It's enticing, and we build a fantasy realm around that. You know, like I want to be like Bruce Lee, and just like he was in Enter the Dragon, and all this kind of stuff, and you know, whatever other kung fu movies you can think of. People build fantasies around that, and when you bring that into martial combat, whatever it is you're learning, whether it's karate, whether it's kung fu, whether it's jiu-jitsu, I don't care what martial discipline you're looking towards. When you bring that fantasy life into that, it's dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
Why do you think so?
Well, I think people gain a false sense of how dangerous they are, how deadly they can be. You know, you hear that stuff all the time. Oh, the techniques we teach are too deadly for the cage. They're not, bro. They're not. When did you see? You know, how do you know?
Yeah.
Well, my instructor told me. Well, did he ever do it? Because I know I've done 1,000 arm locks, and I know the outcome of one of those.
Yeah.
I can rip your arm off and beat you over the head with it.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact. You know, your death touch. Have you done it?
Yeah.
Have you know? Have you seen your instructor do it?
You ever see those videos where they're like,
wild.
Oh yeah,
touch
like the
guys
death
and
touch.
then they'll do all this shit.
It's
Like touch a
yes.
guy and you'll fall over and shit.
It's absolute insanity that people in this modern era buy into that garbage.
Yes, I can understand the practitioner trying to like push that onto people, but what's with the individuals that allow that to happen?
It's almost like a cult, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a cult mentality. Yeah.
That's always what I wanted. That was always my biggest question with those type of cats is like, I can definitely get the mindset behind like trying to portray the fact that you can push somebody over with a finger and do whatever to them, but the people that allow that to happen, I always feel like that's a different level of crazy.
They prey on the weak, and that's what separates, I think, the grappling arts from these more traditional arts. And again, that's not to say that there are practitioners of these traditional arts that aren't tough motherfuckers, because there are, but they're not the norm. You know, the norm is, oh, my nephew has a black belt and he's 9. Good, I'll beat up your nephew and 20 of his friends all at the same time. Like,
that's something I found that was really interesting. I know that there's a lot of illegitimate black belts in different martial arts, and I think that is the cause of like consumerism and capitalism.
It is.
People took
it's directly related.
Yeah. People took a martial art and then they formed a business around it, rather than keeping its values and its intentions pure.
Yes.
Right. So like if you show up for, I just saw an interview I think with Joe Rogan talking about this, where people could go into a martial arts gym and they can give you a schedule on like when you will receive your black belt if you show up for X amount of time.
Correct.
Really?
Yeah,
they'll stripe you after like so many practices.
20 classes is a stripe, and this and that, you know, and it's madness.
Do you think that can happen with jiu-jitsu because of the rise of popularity?
It already is. It's already happening.
You've seen it?
Sure. Gracie University does it.
Really?
Yeah. For Gracie Academy University online, 20 classes, first stripe.
That's nuts because
then there's a timeline from there on out. You know? Now you still have to meet the criteria of testing and whatever. But I know plenty of places that do it that way. You know? The problem with that is quality over quantity. Right? You guys both show up for 20 classes. You put in work from minute to minute, end to end, bookend it, and you spend time on your phone, you went and took a piss, you talked to this person about the latest television. Yeah. You both did the same class, but who put in the better quality of it? So why should you receive credit for that?
Well, I mean, it definitely
quality of work.
It makes sense in the school's aspect of why they would try to do something like that, because it's like a subscription-based service. It's like if you're collecting a monthly payment from an individual, you tell them in 31 days you'll get your first stripe. That's the easiest way to collect a second payment.
Correct. So yes, that's what they do. That's their business model.
And jiu-jitsu is becoming severely popularized now. So like specifically that phenomenon, I feel like has happened. We were talking to Tyler about that. That was like a big segment of the pod we did with Tyler. We were talking about like the McDojo effect.
With celebrities now training, there's going to be a more. You're going to have a McDojo effect.
Yeah.
Now that's not new. That was happening even back when I was still blue belt, purple belt. That was starting to pop up. That was one of the reasons I actually opened my own academy. But yeah, man, it's easy to fall into those McDojo traps of.
That's crazy.
Like you guys have never heard. I will guarantee you've never heard Tyler or I talk about promotions, about our promotion standards. Like this is when you'll get your first stripe. This is when you'll get. Never.
I only ever heard James saying that jiu-jitsu is a meritocracy and that you'll get it when you deserve it.
Correct. Yes.
And
that's how it was always described to me, and I feel like it makes the most sense that way.
Yes. When I was coming up, it was very simple. It was you'd have a room full of people at a seminar. Hoist would walk in and he'd say, guys, I got one purple belt today. And you know what was going to happen for that purple belt.
Yeah.
Every single person was going to roll, and who was ever left standing was going to get that purple belt.
Wow.
And you knew walking out of that room you were purple belt. And everybody in that room knew it because you had tapped them. That was the way it was. So nowadays, and Tyler and I have done that. I've done that with different phases of of the business. But now what I look for is peer recognition. So if there's a group of purple belts who consistently are talking about this blue belt,
Mike Krasnavich. Man,
yeah. You got to see, dude, I was rolling with him the other day. He gave me everything I could handle. But now I'm watching.
Yeah.
Now I'm watching. There's 2 or 3 guys who I've pulled them aside. I said, listen, your peers, the upper ranks are talking about you right now. Here's what I see. Here's your homework. You do this homework, you get to where you need to be. You don't do this homework, you're going to be at that rank for a little while. And that's up to you. That's all on you at that point.
Has it always been your mindset on progression, or were you different like in your younger years?
So when I started jiu-jitsu, being a black belt wasn't even on the radar when I started jiu-jitsu. There was no, because back then it was, and we'll probably dive back into the origin stories, but, there's my origin story, there's my villain arc, and now here I am, redeemed hero. But it's, back then it wasn't anything. It was like, if I get a blue belt, I've probably accomplished something in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. That was the way, because there weren't, you didn't see a lot of purple belts. The only black belts we really ever saw were members of the Gracie family. Yeah. So that, to me, was never a possibility. Like, I never thought I was going to be a black belt, ever.
When did you become a black belt? How long did it take?
Can we talk about your story?
The origin story?
Yeah. How did you get into jiu-jitsu? Let's, go through the line here.
Yeah.
How did you get into it?
Yeah.
Or martial arts, maybe.
I always say 2000. Well, I grew up wrestling. So, and for me, wrestling is a martial art. Arguably one of the most dominant martial arts.
I'd agree.
Arguably one of the most dominant. If you are going to be a modern day competitor, you need wrestling, you need jiu-jitsu, some striking, of course. But that's the strength base is grappling. So it was 2000. I always say 2000 just because it's easy to remember, but really it was 99, somewhere around Thanksgiving, before Christmas, somewhere in there. I don't know. It was so long ago. Different people that have been my peers for many years have thrown different dates at me where they're like, oh yeah, I remember I met you in 99 and just before Thanksgiving. I was 28 years old.
When you started?
Yeah.
So
I started late.
Okay.
Now the whole reason I started was we were coming up on the new year, and I was former wrestler, right? So I got fat like a lot of former wrestlers do, where I'm like, man, I fucking hate cutting weight. Yeah. This is bullshit. I just want to party and, drink a lot and get girls and eat food and whatever, because I didn't do that in high school because I was focused on wrestling. You know? So we were going into the year 2000, and myself, a couple of buddies, we all pitched in, I forget what it was, $100 or $200, whatever it was. And it was going to be a weight loss challenge. Who can lose the most weight by whatever the date was, and winner takes the pot. So I was like, I'm winning this money. I'm 28. I got a shitty job. I'm like, I'm getting this money. So I started looking around. I'm like, let me join the gym now. I hate the gym, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, martial arts is cool. Because again, at that time, I still had the mentality of everybody else. Yeah. I watch these movies. These are cool. I could do that. And let me, enter the dragon and break some boards and whatever, right? Yeah. So I opened the yellow pages. You guys know what those are, right?
The phone books.
Because this is pre internet, So I opened the phone book, right? I flip back through, and I'm looking at martial arts, and there's this little, the smallest ad you can buy, the size of a postage stamp. Yeah. And it says, "Learn Gracie Jiu Jitsu." And then it had Hoist Gracie's original Flying G logo on it. Call this number. I'm like, there's no fucking way this is real. Because I had seen the UFCs.
You knew about Hoist at this time?
I knew about Hoist at this time because we had watched the UFCs in college. Yeah. Right? When I was in university, the first UFC came out, and we all got together and watched it. I remember thinking, man, this dude's going to die. Someone's going to die today. We're going to see this happen. And that didn't happen. Hoist won, and I was like, and then it happened again, and then it happened again. So I knew about the Gracie family. Yeah. Anybody who was a fan of the UFC back then knew about the Gracie family. So I called the number, and guy answered, and he's like, "Yeah, we train on, I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, whatever time it was. Come on in." Okay, cool. Didn't think anything of it. Next day, I called again. I'm like, this can't be real.
Is that this area?
Yeah. So that was this was in Einen. It was Betty Street next to Cousins Market. It was just this little tiny spot. I'm going to say less than 1,000 square feet, maybe 1,000 square feet. Didn't even have heat.
Yeah.
They would remove the tiles, the drop ceiling tiles, to steal heat from the grocery store next door.
Oh, that's funny.
So,
Well, there was probably no money in MMA back then.
there was nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing back then. So I finally got up the courage and went, and had my first class and loved it. It was two brothers, the Brunetti brothers. They were both blue belts at the time. They had gotten their blue belt, I think, from Hoist. If not from Hoist, it was like kind of like a Gracie Family seminar type of thing. But at that time, the Gracie Family was training on both coasts. So they were based in California, but they would also come to the East Coast, Philadelphia in particular.
Okay.
And that was where these brothers, one of the brothers was going to university down there, and he was learning it, and then got his other brother. And long story short, they earned blue belts, you know, and opened like a little club.
Yeah.
That club eventually kind of started to grow a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, but I was hooked. I was in it now. And it was shortly after that I met Hoist, and I remember, you know, very clearly meeting him at this seminar and just being enthralled by him.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this dude is the baddest dude on the planet at that time.
Yeah.
You know, this dude is the baddest dude on the planet. And
wow,
I just shook hands with him, and we're having a conversation, and we're out to dinner. Like, this is fucking weird, man.
Just you and Hoist, or
no, like a group of
other
us.
guys?
Yeah, like a group of us. You know, a group of Cinco fans, all like, you know, heart eyes emojis, and you know, oh, this is Hoist.
Trying to
you
keep
know?
it together.
Yeah,
like,
trying to
stay
keep
cool.
it together and be cool, but on the inside, you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I was just, anytime he was going to be there, I was there, and I was there, and I was there, and just doing seminars, and then I got my blue belt and started to be even a little more serious about it. You know, I was like, oh, okay, I can.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I could do more with this. So I started traveling, going, like, if he was doing like an East Coast tour, say he was going to be up, you know, like Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, doing seminars. I'm like, well, here we go.
Wow.
You
So
know,
you're
and
traveling.
I would just like drive to these seminars, and then eventually I would start driving him from place to place, because he'd be like, oh, you're going there. Let me just jump in the car with you. Why should I rent a car?
Wow. So you're creating a relationship.
I'm creating a relationship with him. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was all based on you know, meeting him through the Brunetti brothers. Because at that time he was spending a lot of time on the East Coast, because he started dating his now ex-wife, but he started dating Marianne, who was from Easton.
Yeah. Tyler told us that.
Yeah.
That was a crazy
So
story.
he was around all the time. So, you know, we were getting more than just like the 2-hour meet and greet seminar. Of like, hey guys, here's a couple quotes. You know, he because he was in the area, we're getting 3, 4, 5 hours, break for lunch, come back in the evening, train some more. So we were getting a lot
Really
out
picking
of
his
him.
brain.
Yeah, we're really picking his brain and working stuff, and that eventually led to me getting a purple belt under him.
Wow.
And that
From him?
From Hoist, yes. Yeah. I got it in North Carolina, actually on the same day that my good friend and mentor now, Rob Kahn, got his black belt. Yeah, purple belt, North Carolina, that was 2005.
Yeah.
I think 2005, yeah. Yep. We flew through a real bad thunderstorm. The airports had been hit by tornadoes.
Yeah.
Like, we just pushed to get there, and we got there, and I just remember at the end of the seminar going, holy shit, I just got promoted to purple belt.
Yeah. At the time, were you doing it like solely for the love of the sport, or did you ever anticipate making a career?
No, I didn't. Having this as a career was not on my radar.
Yeah, what did your
Not
friends
on
and
my
family
radar.
think about you?
They thought I was fucking nuts.
Traveling
They
all
thought I was
over.
nuts. My parents, I don't know how they didn't disown me. They literally, they were like, "You're quitting your job to do what?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just gonna travel around and train, and you know, and whatever. I'll make some bucks doing, you know, odd jobs and shit and whatever." And that's what I did.
The Ronin
And
lifestyle.
then it was kind of like that. It was, you know, I hated my job. It was a factory job, and it sucked.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So I just decided I wanted to enjoy grappling. So I did. And we were sitting on we were getting ready to leave, and I remember Hoist saying to me, Cracker, that's what he always called me, Cracker. Cracker, when you get back to Scranton, I want you to open a gym. Not just, you know, because we just had a little club. He's like, I want you to open a gym. He's like, the jiu-jitsu that Scranton is getting from other people is not jiu-jitsu. It's not. And he's like, and I need you to do this. And I was like, okay, I guess. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't have 2 nickels to rub together, so here we go. And I said, I'll give it a year. I'll open for a year, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I tried. And committed to that 1-year lease, and I think I went from opening day, like 5 or 6 guys, because we were already training together at the club.
Yeah.
And these are 5 or 6 guys that obviously I'm not charging at this point, because how am I going to charge these guys that have been training with me this whole time, right? And yeah, man, we moved, and in the first year, I went from those 5 or 6 guys to 30-something students.
Wow.
And I went, okay, I'll commit to another year. Let me do another year. And then it was just boom, 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 boom. It just kept growing into what it is now. Yeah.
So you were still a purple belt when you opened your gym?
I was a purple belt, yeah.
So how did you progress from purple to brown belt?
So that became the same thing, where I was just traveling and traveling and traveling and traveling. I would do as many seminars as I could. I would just take notes. We would practice the balls off them. We were studying from magazines. Grapple magazine at the time was a big thing.
It's crazy.
We would be able to find like if we were really lucky, you could find like a catch wrestling book at Borders or something. A Jiu Jitsu book, if you could find one. We were studying, out of raw pictures and just being like this or that.
Wow.
Now, having a baseline as a purple belt, you can decipher those things.
Yeah.
To do that as a white belt would be almost impossible. And then we were just practice the training partners until we had it, or until we at least had some understanding of it. And then when I would go to these seminars, and I would ask Hoist questions, or Rodrigo Gracie, his cousin. Eventually, Rob Kahn, who's now my mentor, I would ask him. But there was always other higher ranks around. There was other purple belts, or even some brown belts, where you'd be like, "What are you guys working on? Like, what are you doing? Oh, let me show you, bro." And we would just trade knowledge like that.
Yeah.
It was like internet before the internet.
Yeah.
It was like actual human interaction. Of like, boom.
It's crazy how the martial arts have spread.
And it was that's what happened. We just kept growing and growing. We went from Greenridge Street in Scranton over to Mulberry Street in Scranton. That's where MMA started. 2009-ish was when it was legalized in PA, so that's when we started training MMA. Moved to Kapaus. Then from Kapaus, we moved up into the Warhorse building, and that was Scranton MMA, which was a debacle. And then that's when we wound up splitting. So there's a lot of history to unpack in here. we could be here all day.
Yeah, that's crazy that we have such roots to like the immediate Gracie family.
Yeah. I mean, Hoist was truly a mentor of mine for a little over 14 years, almost 15 years, where he was a huge, the primary influence in my jiu-jitsu, I would say. Yeah.
I agree with what you were saying before, though. It's like so nuts to think about how jiu-jitsu spread across North America, like in the fashion that it did.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, it's just insane. Like, I wonder how many of those stories, like similar to what you said, happened to other guys around the world where they met.
Plenty of them.
Yeah, they're getting trained by a crazy member of the Gracie family, and they were told to go back to wherever they were from, their hometown, open a gym, and just make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's I've mentioned Rob Kahn a couple of times. Rob is one of those guys that anytime there's like an article or a blog or something about 5 names in jiu-jitsu you don't know but you should, like Rob is always in there. Rob, Phil Reese, he's always another one that's always in there. But those guys, same thing. They just happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Met a member of the Gracie family, trained with them. I mean, Rob's had a prolific impact on so many fighters' jiu-jitsu. I think he had 7 or 8 guys in the UFC. He produced Matt Arroyo, who was winner of one of the tough seasons. And he just had a little basement gym in Thornwood, New York. And eventually he was just that good.
Yeah.
He was just that good.
Is it true?
Combat mind.
He's the first American to be given a black belt by
Hoist.
By
Hoist, yeah. I think the first American black belt was Chris Hodder, I want to say. I don't remember. I think there's a few different people that claim it, but he was Hoist's first black belt.
Wow.
So he, the dude's, the way his mind works, I would say, like, again, unpacking the origin story, training a lot with Hoist, I would try to do his jiu-jitsu, right? But it was hard for me. Hoist is 6'1", he's lanky, he's lean. I'm not. I'm, a hobbit. So it's like a lot of stuff he would do and the way he would do it, I would have a hard time with that. Then I met his cousin, Rodrigo, who was, a fighter in Pride over in Japan. Fought MMA. all over the world. And Rob Kahn, Rob was more like me, was a compact wrestler, and and Rodrigo was a new generation Gracie, right? So he had a little more aggressiveness to him, where it was like, basically fuck that self-defense. This is going to be self-offense, where it's more like punch you in the face. That's jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So they metamorphosized from purple to black belt my entire jiu-jitsu game. They completely dismantled it, reconstructed it, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, like
so thankful for
that. As a coach, like since you were the coach, like who promotes you? Those
so
guys?
It was always Hoist. It was always Hoist that was promoting me. Now it's Rob, because Hoist and I had a split number of years back. Now we had a really bad falling out. But so now it's Rob. So I'm still in that Hoist Gracie lineage, because Rob is Hoist's black belt, but up until 4-stripe brown belt, everything that had been put on my belt was by Hoist Gracie.
Wow.
Yeah. Every belt, every stripe.
Did your relationship with jiu-jitsu evolve after purchasing your own gym?
I think I became a little more invested in other people's growth. Where it was in order to run a successful gym, I knew I had to churn out successful competitors, people who were successful. And we did that. Obviously Tyler's a shining example of that. But when you're looking back and you're seeing, like guys like Jimmy Hedis, right, going into the UFC, he trained with us for all the way up to purple belt. And then he, went off and did bigger camps because he needed to. You know what I mean? He wasn't getting the UFC staying here locally. So, we've put out a lot of talent through the years, and we've made big impacts through the years, and that's why, it's the 7-Nation Army now. But it was always because I was invested in other people's, and by doing that, I was getting better myself. Yeah. Because if I'm teaching you my game to make you better, and you're learning my game, I have to evolve. Yeah. Or you're going to pass me.
It didn't make you have to take a step back in any way, like having to focus on other people didn't make you not disattached in any way.
No, not at all. Because physical, we're so physical with jiu-jitsu, right? So if I'm teaching you an arm lock, I'm getting the same reps, same amount of reps you are. Yeah. So, being a hands-on coach, I was still getting and evolving, and I had the competition bug still. I wanted to fight MMA, I wanted to compete in jiu-jitsu, so I was still training. Yeah.
That's one interesting thing about jiu-jitsu that I guess I never thought of against any other sport is any other sport. Like I played football my entire life when I was younger. The coach isn't in there in the trenches with you.
Correct.
The coach isn't putting the pads on running you over, right?
No, but in jiu-jitsu we are.
Yeah, that's because I train at Bad Company, and that's how Tyler is. So he's right in the fire with you. Yes. Now, granted, Tyler's obviously the best in the room, but he's still in there getting his work in.
He's still in there, and he's getting his work in. Yeah, and that's how, I'll be jiu-jitsu dad. That's how I brought him up to be that way. This is what you do. Yeah. We don't sit on the sidelines. Yeah. We're in here with our people. Because there's lots of academies where you go and you won't see the instructor rolling. You won't see them. They're off somewhere and they're just being. They're a picture on the wall. Yeah. That's it. And you never see them. Yeah.
That's I'm sure you're familiar with John Donaher, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of his scenario now.
Yes.
His knees are all messed up. He can't really practice.
His hip. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what it's his hip?
I think hip and knees. Yeah. Yeah. So listen, when you reach black belt, you have your scars. Yeah. You have your scars. Big John McCarthy. He's another example, right? He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. A lot of people don't know that. He can't really roll anymore because he's got a cage in his neck. Yeah. As a vertebrae. So he doesn't really live roll anymore. He just kind of works with his people and whatever have you. So there's a point where this art will catch up to you. Yeah. And it will call upon its receipts.
When did you notice that for yourself? Was there a moment in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember it fucking happening, and it was very, very difficult pill to swallow. Yeah. And the first person I called was Tyler. I didn't even call my wife. I left the doctor's office. I'd been having really, really bad pain, numbness through my hands, numbness through my legs, couldn't turn my head. Chronically, I couldn't raise my arm above my head. I couldn't reach for a wallet. It was impossible to even pull a wallet out of my pocket. Yeah. Right? So finally, my business partner convinced me to go see a doctor. So I would always joke about, man, I'd love to see an x-ray of my spine until I saw it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. That's fucked up.
What'd you see?
So
Some fusion.
So all of my cervical vertebrae have like bone spurs on them. My L4 actually sits forward in the spinal column. So like, if this is 3 and this is 5, it sits forward.
Yeah.
So and then my L5S1 is all fucked up, and then my sacral bone at some point broke and fused on top of my coccyx bone. So instead of being in alignment, my sacral bone like sits right on top of it and it's fused. So, they just flat out said, they're like, listen, you can keep doing what you're doing and you probably got about 5 years left. Or you can restructure the entire way you approach your jiu-jitsu, and you can do it your whole life. So surgery will eventually be inevitable. All things are inevitable. Death's inevitable. Everything's inevitable. So surgery will be inevitable at some point. But now I do a lot of physical therapy.
Yeah.
I do a lot of pre-therapy. So just stuff on my own. I'm very, very selective with the people I roll with. I probably at this point only have about a dozen training partners with whom I will roll with.
Interesting.
And that's the sacrifice.
Yeah. Did you take recovery seriously when you were younger, like progressing, or was that not something you really focused on?
No, definitely not. No. There was no recovery.
Trying to kill motherfuckers.
Yeah, that was just, there was no recovery. It was like, hey, this arm hurts. Well, you stick it in your belt and you go out there and you roll. That's it. I can't turn my head to the right. Well, then you turn your body to the right. Don't let somebody grab your head in a guillotine. That was recovery.
That's what they're saying. If you can go back and change that approach to jiu-jitsu, would you?
100%, I would change it. Yes.
And what would you tell like a beginner guy who's like aggressive, like kind of like a bull?
The same thing I tell them all the time: slow the fuck down. What are you doing? You know, I'm like, slow down. I don't know what goes in people's brain when they start grappling, where they think they need to go harder, they need to go faster, they need to. You go into the Penn State wrestling room; they're not killing each other. They're not. Very highly technical. You're training hard, but they're not trying to murder each other. They're not suplexing each other on the head. You go into any UFC gym, they're not. They're not guns blazing. They're not. You're not at Jackson Winklejohn's gym and they're throwing full heat in a sparring set. They're not. So I don't. It's getting people to understand, like,
it's a hard thing to grasp.
Dude, this is practice.
Yeah.
This is practice.
For those guys, I mean, I'm a very inexperienced jiu-jitsu guy. I feel like it's just ego. I mean, luckily I never had
Massive
to really
ego.
battle with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's like ego, and then like kind of what you were referencing is like the chip on the shoulder. Like you feel like you have something to prove.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever? I'm sure you have experienced that car ride home where you got like choked out, and you're like, "Damn!" Like I know if this was in the real world, he would have killed me.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to, like, when I was coming up under Hoist, there was no delusions I was ever going to beat Hoist. There was no how in what fantasy realm would I ever? So it was daily beatings. You know what I mean? There was no delusions that I was going to tap Rodrigo Gracie or tap Rob Kahn.
Yeah.
So my primary mentors were so far light years beyond me.
Yeah.
There was no way I was going to tap them ever. So my ego got put in check pretty quick.
Yeah. There's something to that, man. Like, do you think that you experienced like an ego dissolution throughout your progression as a practitioner?
Yes, for sure.
And do you think it's because of the constant inevitable beatings
Yes.
that you must take
Yes.
if you're going to walk that path?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That to me is part of probably one of the biggest influences in me living a stoic life.
Jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. Yes. Because the ego is the most difficult thing to conquer.
It is,
to
man.
lead a virtuous life and to lead a self-controlled life.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm hard-headed, but I've been having this conversation with Tyler recently where like I've been getting really frustrated during my rolls. And I'll roll with Tyler and like I'll really bite hard on my mouthpiece and like try to kill him.
Yeah.
And then I'll get myself in some real trouble.
Sure.
And then I'll be like, he'll kind of have my back, sprawl my legs out, and then my head will be, face down on the
in
mat.
The dirt. Yeah.
Or I'll roll with a guy like Rossi, Anthony Rossi, I think his name is.
We haven't met, but I know the name.
He's good, man. And whenever I roll with him, it's very, very hard to get from underneath him, and it's just like me suffocating on a sweaty shirt.
Yes.
And I don't know if I'm getting it yet. To tell you the truth, like I will go through that suck, and I'll still come out like an asshole many times.
It's a hard thing to deal with. Yeah, you do, because you have to put. It's again going back to the start of this. The start of our conversation here is putting self-destructive emotions in check. It's very, very difficult for people to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that emotion is a bad thing. I certainly don't live my life like a robot. I certainly don't live my life like a statue.
Yeah.
But you will very rarely see flashes of emotion from me. And when you do, it's really warranted. So like if I look pissed or if I do, flip that switch, it becomes where if it's all the time, people get inoculated to that. It's just like, oh, that's just Jeff. He's an asshole all the time. He's always raging. He's always this. He's always that. Or
when did you master that? Were you always like that?
I was always an introvert. Growing up as a kid, most of my my friends were imaginary friends. I'm out in the front lawn playing with imaginary friends. So I was always a little bit of an introvert. Jiu-Jitsu definitely helped me come out of that shell. But yeah, I think it was just gradual. So, I don't know, the way I'm wired, I guess.
Yeah.
Because my minor at university was accidentally philosophy. Because I would take philosophy courses. Anytime I had an elective, it would be a philosophy course. So I wound up getting enough credits that I could have had a minor in philosophy. So I was a Stoic before I knew what a Stoic was.
That's fascinating. And then did you begin to learn about those philosophies?
Then I would start to delve deeper into that. And really start to understand what they meant. In their writings, in their teachings, and most of what they talked about back in that ancient era it still applies to modern day problems. We're in the shit we're in because people are emotional about everything.
It's part of being human, though.
It is, and it's the most dangerous part of being human.
But it's something that we individually have to practice. And we individually have to work on within ourselves. Each and every one of us. Some people blatantly ignore it, and some it's a lifetime worth of work. But I just recently read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The way that
he's one of the most famous Stoics ever to live.
It's a fascinating read.
It is. It definitely is. And people use that book a lot. They quote that book a lot, and they cherry pick from it a lot. There can be an aphorism on the first page that, man, that sings to me, man. I feel that right here. And they flip the page and they go, what? No, I don't like that. Oh, you gotta take it all. I'm not saying it's living your life that way is easy. You're constantly walling people off. You're not sharing your thoughts with people all the time. Very rarely on my social media do you see me share anything of my socioeconomic, political, religious views. It's kind of for me, the brain is like, it's the same way as a woman who just throws her pussy all over, right? Anybody can have it, right? What value does that pussy have? If I'm willing to just give my mind to anybody who will listen, what value does my mind have?
It creates
devalues my opinion. It devalues my mind.
Right.
And it elevates everyone around you into a position where they're close enough to harm you. Because you're sharing your thoughts with them, so they'll know your weaknesses, they'll know your hot buttons, they'll know this, they'll know how to push those things. Or worse, they'll find something that they can really, really harm you with. So I'm very introverted, personalized with my thoughts. Even with my own household. My wife always, what are you thinking about? Just a couple things. Some things I'll share with her. But there's times where it's just thoughts that I'm pondering.
I find that is essential, but I also think that it creates a difficulty in existing as a man, because it's hard. It leaves us vulnerable when we're open about how we feel.
Yes,
a lot of times.
Of course,
but
it does. Yes.
Bottling up all of those feelings could
that's
manifest in a negative way.
But that's a misconception of that stoicism is you're not bottling things up, right? I do have my confidant, like my wife. I can speak to her. Almost like levels, like there's certain things that I would pull Tyler aside and speak with Tyler about, as a confidant. But it's like a bullseye, right? Like I'm the center of the bullseye, and a lot of thoughts won't be shared, and then my wife would be like the next ring out, and then Tyler would be the third ring out.
I see.
So it's filtering what people are allowed to know about you. It's not saying like, hey, I'm stuffing down emotions. I'm just not sharing all of my thoughts all the time.
It's like limited access.
I relate
so
a
it's
lot
very,
to that.
very limited access. You'll see, a lot of times I'll start a sentence and I'll go, you know what, I don't want to go there. I don't want to talk about that. You know, or somebody say, well, what do you think about? I have a lot of thoughts about it.
Not gonna share them.
I don't need to share them.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about. Sure, I have a lot of thoughts about that. Doesn't mean you get to hear them.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, then we're immediately on equal footing. Then,
Okay.
you know, as far as, and I'm not saying like you're trying to push somebody down, but again, you give them that avenue into being able to hurt you.
Yeah. I've been there before. I think I've been in situations where I think I've shared too much, and then
and you almost immediately regret it. You go, ooh.
When things became tense, it was used against me almost.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then I had to, you know, evaluate that and then
Right.
move accordingly. But it seems that you're saying that have certain people to talk to about certain things with.
Yes.
Right. So
sure.
don't just bring all of your dilemmas to just some random individual.
Just some random individual. Yeah.
Somebody who can provide you like valuable insight on this particular
somebody who
thing.
can counsel.
Yes.
You know, that they can provide real counsel to you.
Yes.
Those are the type of people I'm going to share thoughts with.
Yeah.
If you're going to look to debate me on something or argue with me on something, I don't feel like we can have a conversation then.
I see.
Not that I want to be surrounded by yes men. It's just I'm sharing an idea with you not to be debated about.
Yes.
I want some counsel, even if you disagree with me. You know, that was something that I picked up from my professor in college, Harry Cogden. He was a former minister that had left the church to become a philosophy professor because he couldn't reconcile his philosophical ideas with his religious virtues, and he eventually left the church and did this. And he would have conversations like that where he would say, you know, getting the questions to answers is your job, not somebody else's job. It's not. In other words, don't just expect somebody to tell you everything. You know, or if they do tell you, you better critically examine it. You know, why are they telling me this?
Yes.
Is this factual? You know, the classic Eddie Bravo. Just look into it. You know, Eddie Bravo.
Yeah.
Just look into it.
Is it
Make your
I'm
own
not saying
interpretation.
just look into it, right? So yeah, look into stuff.
Yeah.
Don't just take people at their word.
like if I was to try to teach you a technique involving chi,
right?
you
Yes,
would
I'd be like,
let me think about this.
Let me think. Yeah, like, this is not going to go well.
Yeah. Instead of just taking it for face value and,
Right.
and truly believing it. And I think that's very true in today with all of these social media posts.
Oh,
and,
yes.
and things saying the proper way to eat, the proper way to exercise.
It's all contradictory too.
Yeah, yes,
it's all contradictory
very
too.
much.
So you have to really do your due diligence,
Yeah.
and you have to do your homework, and that's really all. You know, that's really all. You know, Marcus Aurelius, critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we as human beings should be striving towards: critical thinking.
Yeah.
That makes me think about like that conversation we had with Brian yesterday about like how you could just make up a random story and like most people will believe it.
Yeah.
Like what you said about, what was it, like fucking reptiles or
Yeah,
something?
I called him and I told him, I was like, did you know lizards have 2,000 teeth in their lifetime? And he was like, really? That's fascinating.
That's
I just
fascinating.
completely pulled
Just
it
made
out.
it up. Yeah,
made
and
that shit up.
that's the internet today.
Yes.
You know, you can say whatever you want about somebody,
Yeah.
and people will believe it and they'll run with it.
Do you moderate your internet consumption?
Yes, I do. I have my filters are turned up high to just see what I want to see, and I make sure I'm not really spending a ton of time on the phone.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have a business, so I have to.
Yeah.
You know, I have to post or die, so to speak. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, here's some stories.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But I'm not going back to see how many people viewed the story or
Yeah.
liked the story or shared this or loved it. I don't care. It's just out there for the, you know, somebody needs that. Like I always do Motivation Monday, or you know, I have themes. You know, something I post on any given Monday could be what somebody needs to get off their ass.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, we do like Women's Wednesday. You know, well, maybe there's some woman who sees like all these women who train, and she's in some type of abusive relationship.
Yeah.
She goes, "Wow, women do this, right?" Like, it's just something like that's my goal with my social media stuff. You know, and then photo dumps of like my Disney trip, my food, and all of that. Like it's just.
There's no doubt that there's a predatory nature to these platforms.
Yes,
the way the way that they structure their algorithms and showing you whatever you want, and they're specifically playing on like the psychology of a human and just giving them hits of dopamine, and then you'll see people are, you know, on the phone for 7 hours at a time.
Yes, correct.
It's crazy.
Do you have any way of like instilling that knowledge of the dangers of the internet to your children? Or do you not think about that very much?
That wasn't really something that I had to deal with.
Really?
Right? It wasn't. The internet was still so new because my youngest child is 25, and my oldest is 31. So, they weren't really exposed to a lot of.
Yeah. Not in the era of like.
Yeah, they weren't in the era
they
of
like just
Facebook
missed it.
Yeah,
Just missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were Barney and Blue's Clues and whatnot. So, if anything, I was psychologically damaged from Barney and Blue's Clues.
That was like what's weird about our generation is like he and I were like the last group of like kids that had life. Well, like the internet was around obviously like when we were born, but it was like the infant stage.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think Facebook was out when we were born. I think Facebook was made in 2004.
It was probably in its early development stages. Like Mark Zuckerberg was just kind of creating a platform for Harvard students, I think, is the way it went. And then after a while, it started to gain so much popularity that it began spreading over the different campuses, and then it became just a social platform.
And then like the iPhone didn't get released until 2007. Yeah. Then you have my brother, he's 16. Like the internet life is
in the
that's it.
Crazy for a young
the
kid.
meta. Yeah. I mean that's where people are living their lives now.
In the metaverse.
In the metaverse. Yeah. I want to be out and just
experiencing real
life. Yeah.
I'm moving more in that direction now because that was like a big part of my childhood was like I was very comforted by like TV shows, gaming, movies and stuff when I was a kid. So like now I'm getting to the point in life where I really appreciate like the memories made outside of your house.
Yeah.
And like when I'm at home, like I'm sure he can attest to it. Like if I'm sitting in my backyard with my family, like we were yesterday, just grilling, eating food or whatever, like I don't just sit on my phone when I'm like around my people, around my family. If I'm traveling, if I'm sitting in an airport, like I'll anybody's
gonna do that. Kill
like,
time. Yeah.
I think I'm really good at recognizing like when the time is right to be doing that kind of shit.
Yeah. I just didn't want to miss a moment of anything. I just don't want to miss moments.
Yeah.
You're at a concert and you're like this. Just watch the fucking concert.
Yeah.
This is more powerful than this. This is a way more powerful recording tool than
that's
this.
Interesting to me. Like I never understood that. Like I seen a video online the other day of like I think it was just like a couple at a Drake concert, like the Drake concert that happened in Philadelphia recently, and it was a video of like somebody just recording like Drake on stage, but like everybody in the crowd was just
every
like
phone is out
on their phone.
Yeah. Now again, that's not to say, hey, don't click a picture, whatever. Yeah. Like cool, but if you're gonna 3 songs, 4 songs, 5 songs.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
I get it. Like I get the idea behind like taking a little video, a little snapshot or whatever. But that's something like you might only get to like. I love music. I like Drake. That's something you probably only ever get to experience like one time in your life.
Sure.
So why are you gonna sit there and let your video? I mean, yeah, sure, videos live on forever, but you can find if everybody in that crowd's taking a video, you could probably just find their video online. It's not.
And you're just gonna like it so much more inside of here. You know what I mean? It's gonna be so amplified. The experience in your brain. It's gonna be so amplified by your brain. Like how great it was. Even if it wasn't. Like man, that was such a great concert.
I think that's a cool part of what jiu-jitsu is because you have no other choice but to be completely immersive.
You have to be present
in what you're doing
every second of every role. You must be. That's why people use it as mental therapy.
Yeah, it's very good for mental health.
You can't think about anything else when you are rolling with another human. Everything must be present. You have to be focused in and dialed in.
I don't even think it's an option. Like I think like, I don't know. I've never experienced like thoughts while I was rolling.
No.
Even if I tried to, I don't think because there's like a person trying to strangle me or there's like an arm coming and I have to, put it a post up.
Yes.
Or it's like it's all instinctual. It's all natural.
You must be in the moment. Yeah. And that's that's how it was with these seminars, like driving around and you were in the moment throughout the entire process. During the seminar, you're paying attention because you're trying to make sure you're going to get all the information you can to take back to your students. You're interacting with other humans who you've never rolled with before, ever. Because you would have people from all walks of life coming, all different academies coming. So now here's this purple belt. I don't know who this purple belt is. He don't know who I am. Yep. And now we're going to try to kill each other.
You don't know his style?
You don't know his style. Yeah. And so you would have to figure it out on the fly. Now it's like, okay, he's a guard player. Boom, here we go. Spider guard player. Okay, now you're like, and you have to ratchet out and create a strategy. And if you're distracted, creating a strategy isn't going to come to you.
I found that was pretty difficult for me my first time competing at Scranton not too long ago. I was going against a guy who trained out of a gym called Midworld, which, as I understood later, was an affiliate of 10th Planet.
Okay.
And I think 10th Planet is known for having that unique kind of rubber guard,
Yes, rubber guard,
kind of style.
Yes.
And I've actually never even experienced that. Or if I have, it was very limited.
Right.
And so when I was in that position, I was so confused, and I didn't know how to defend or what type of strategies that I can use to combat this guard.
Yes.
And also, I was combating the experience of competition as well,
Right.
which I was completely unfamiliar with.
Yes,
That was a challenge in its own. But it's very interesting how you have to be a sensor almost and get a gauge for what's happening in the moment.
Yes,
and then know how to defend it.
I refer to that as the Rolodex effect. Again, I'm dating myself because you guys probably never experienced a Rolodex, but a Rolodex was like it was a little box.
Yeah.
And you have all your phone numbers in it. And
Yeah,
go like
I
this,
know.
right? So that's what I call the Rolodex effect. When you're rolling or you're competing, you're Rolodexing and you're looking for a technique. You're like, what technique do I have for this? Bah, 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 bah. Oh man, I don't have a technique. I have no idea. Right? That's why a lot of what I do with my teachings is blueprints, concepts, strategies, which I picked all that up from Rob. The strategy within jiu-jitsu doesn't get spoken about a lot, doesn't get talked about a lot, but there's it's just like playing chess. Like people say it, man. It's human chess. It's human chess.
Yeah.
You don't just sit down at a chessboard and move random pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know where you're going and what you're doing, and you have to know, if you don't have a move, you better fall back on some type of strategy or some type of governing concept. Control the control the middle, take the center, whatever it is. Like, you got to be able to do that when you don't have an answer.
Yeah, that one blueprint that you did was particularly interesting when we started from the half guard.
Yes, the half guard blueprint. Yeah.
You built up to your elbow.
Yes.
And then got an underhook.
Yes.
And then there was 3 options from there.
Correct.
All incorporating what you called the back tacks.
The back attacks.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the back tacks.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And these are the type of things that I think when you learn these things, your jiu-jitsu gets supercharged.
Yeah.
And when you learn multiple blueprints and how to connect them, then you're really starting to make a Death Star.
Yeah, that one definitely added to my Rolodex. And then also Tyler recently taught for a month the Drigo sweep, he calls it.
Yes.
And I think that was very useful as well. Just the way that he went about teaching it consistently and how consistent we had to practice that specific technique. But that made me curious. What do you think is the most effective way to really download these techniques into your Rolodex? Because I don't think that I think rolling is a good way to practice it.
It is, yeah.
But what's the better way to really install it into
So,
your game, you think?
Everybody learns differently, right? You have people who are visual learners. You have people who are auditory learners. You have people who are kinesthetic learners, like tactile. They have to touch things, right? Now, most people will favor one of the 3, but all studies show that layering of learning is the way to really map your brain. There's a book that's called The Talent Code. If you've never read that, it's worth it. It's a really, really good read about how the brain learns sports. And they give these strategies and techniques on how to map your neurons for sports. And they give very specific examples of the Brazilian soccer team or people who are good mathletes, right? And how they map their brains. So it's, watch the technique done, pay attention, to do it. And 3, have conversations with yourself about the technique.
Yeah.
I would sit down and say the steps out loud. You'll hear me say that quite frequently if I'm let's say I'm teaching a triangle, right? I always say, okay, guys, here's how to do a triangle. Motorcycle, monkey, monkey wrench. And I tell people to repeat those words in their head or say them out loud as you're doing the technique so that you're understanding, okay, move the arm across, hold it like a motorcycle, grab the monkey wrench, tighten it up, blah, blah, blah. So that you're mapping and layering your brain to suck that technique in. Yeah. And then what happens is once your brain is wired in such a way to learn that craft, in this case we're talking jiu-jitsu, it learns it faster and faster and faster and faster. Where now as a black belt, almost 9 years as a black belt at this point, I could grab my phone right now, watch a technique that I've never seen and hit it live in a roll.
Wow.
On my second or third or fourth try. I won't hit it on my first.
Yeah.
But if I try it 3 to 4 times in a roll, I'll hit it live
Yeah,
without having, because my brain now is wired to learn that way.
That's fascinating. Yeah. I read a book called Mastery by Robert Greene, and it talked about that exact concept, really, where as you continue to stimulate yourself with something specific, like chess or maybe jiu-jitsu, your brain begins to adapt around whatever it is that's continually stimulating.
Correct.
So it almost programs itself to do whatever it is that you're consistently doing.
Yes.
So if you're doing math all the time, your brain's going to be like, it's almost going to be hardwired within you to do math.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a fascinating part about being human, is like the adaptability of the brain
Yeah.
and how you could teach it to do what you want it to do.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you can wire it to do what you want it to do.
And it's like anything. It's like anything else. You starve it, it dies.
Yeah.
You know?
Use it or lose it. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. The concept of neuroplasticity, like you could wire your brain intentionally, is a fascinating thing.
Mm-hmm. I think about roles, either roles that I have and I can play them back in my head like a movie, or I create a fantasy role. You know, where it's like that's how I come up with blueprints a lot. When I'm creating a new blueprint, I fantasy roll with myself, and I was like, okay, how am I going to pass my own guard? How am I going to deal with my own? You know, what are the steps I'm going to do to pass my own half guard? Those type of things, and I start to just progress through it, and the roll is in my head. You know, obviously I can't roll with myself, but the whole roll is in my head, and I'll just blueprint that right out, and then I'll set it to paper. I'll look at it again, see if there's holes, and then I'll start running it in live rolls with my people. Yeah. And when that starts to happen, they go, "You're working on a new blueprint." Yeah. Yeah, I am, and you're getting a preview of it. Just hold on tight.
That's an interesting creative process. You know Mikey Musumeci?
Yeah.
He does something similar, I think, where he'll be working on a specific technique, and then he'll teach his friends how to stop it.
Yes, correct.
And then
that's interesting.
And then he'll continually kind of
evolve.
Like galvanize the technique, and
Correct.
strengthen it as they continue to find little loopholes in the technique, right? That's very, very interesting, because I noticed that when I was doing that Drigo sweep, like if you can get to your base and you can get the underhook, what happens if they flatten you out?
Right.
Because you think it works a high percentage, but if they flatten you out, then it's like, fuck, now what do I do?
Right.
And then building from there.
Yeah. Everything I try to do is A or B. I try to put you in a scenario where you as my opponent must make an A or B decision. And then I go, pop, and kill you.
So if you go A, I go B.
Correct.
Right. If you go right, I go left.
Yes.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Yeah. It's very, very interesting.
I wonder if in the future of MMA, they'll ever discover a way to be able to simulate you being able to, like, fight yourself, if that makes sense. Like, what would work effectively against you versus, like...
Well, I think the best fighters in the world do that.
How so?
They do it themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, they pick training partners very well that are, like, able to, like, mimic or mirror the combat styles of, like, other fighters. But I mean, like, imagine being able to pick yourself apart, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's
and you should be. Yeah, you should be doing that. You should be picking apart every single hole that you have and fixing it. Yeah. And if you're not, what are we doing jiu-jitsu for? You know, you just want to be a good blue belt the rest of your life? Okay, that's cool. But man, it's so much cooler being a black belt.
That's where most people stop, right? The blue belt. Most people stop at blue.
Stop at blue. Yeah.
Going back to philosophy, there's this quote by Miyamoto Musashi where he says that the ultimate aim of martial arts is not having to use them.
Yes.
How do you interpret that?
So it's exactly what it is. I have been in many situations in which I could have used it, maybe even justified in doing so, but didn't, because I knew what I was capable of. I've also been on the other side of the coin where it was like, hey, it's fucking go time, and this is not going to end well for you.
Can you tell a story?
Sure, I can tell a lot of stories.
Outside of the gym, though,
I got stories from the road with Hoyes. I got stories from Tyler and I just being crazy knuckleheads. I got stories upon stories. I got 25 years of grappling stories.
That's crazy.
So not using it, I had a guy who was extremely upset over some dumb shit. That's his business, so I won't talk out of school. But he was in my face, and I just kept managing distance. You know, kind of. My the fence comes up and it's just managing distance.
Was it outside the gym or was it like?
This was outside the gym. Okay. Yeah. Like not outside the gym, like out public, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just managing that distance, making sure he can't get that sucker punch off because everything about his body language is telling me like he wants to throw it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just talking to him the whole time, and he's trying to like work his way around me and get me pinned in almost like a corner like this.
Yeah.
And I'm just slowly using footwork and talking. And eventually I calmed him down to a point where he went, "Yeah, bro, you're right. Why am I mad at you about that?
Huh.
Like what? You know what I mean?" So it was like I knew I could have taken him out at any moment.
Yeah.
I knew it. He was an untrained fighter.
Yeah.
He was agitated. He was emotional.
Yep.
And it would have been easy work. Would have been really easy work.
Took his lunch.
But why? Like what would that prove for me, or what would that do for me?
Right.
To do that. He went about his day. I went about mine. I felt pretty good about it. I'm sure he felt pretty good about it too. Like after he thought about it, it was probably like, man, that was pretty stupid.
That's both sides of the spectrum of emotion right there. Like he had that from both perspectives, like almost getting himself killed to the realization that
yeah,
he probably didn't know. He probably didn't know.
Oh, he knew who I was.
Oh, really?
He knew who I was, and he still stepped me. I'll give him credit.
Yeah.
I'll give him a lot of credit.
That's badass.
Now that might have been why he didn't take the swing sooner.
Yeah.
Or why he didn't take the swing at all. He was probably running it in his head like, man, if I miss, Jeff's really trying his best to de-escalate and not fight. There's probably a really good, he was probably running a lot of processes in his head.
Yeah.
That eventually led him to the decision to not fight, which was the smart decision.
Flight. He chose flight.
Yeah.
Got to sometimes. And, live to fight another day.
The other side of the coin, choosing violence. Sometimes violence is the answer. I have one that was the direct reason I dismantled and remantled my entire curriculum because of a fight that I had. Yeah. We were my buddy Hit and Run Mike, we call him, hitting because he would hit the girls and run.
That's funny.
Yeah. He was notorious. So I'm out with Hit and Run Mike, and we're over in Old Forge at a spot, and he's talking up this chick all night long, and she's flirty with him. She's all over him, and then the boyfriend shows up, right? And now all of a sudden she like goes, and he was like, "Damn!" He goes, "That's fucked up that she was doing that. Like she's playing that guy dirty. Like he's like, I think I should tell him."
Yeah. I
said, "No, you should not tell him."
Yeah.
No, I would. Well, I'd want to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Not tell him. This is gonna go wrong. This is gonna go.
He'll
really,
find
really
out
wrong.
eventually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He is going to blame you.
Yeah.
Right. We are going to get in a fight if you tell this guy.
Yeah.
Right. And we're in hostile grounds. So I finally convinced him to leave. So he's like, "I'm gonna take a piss." So I'm getting ready. Yeah, you already know where this story's going. So what does he fucking do? Hey man, listen, I just want to let you know. And here we go. And that's how the fight started. Right now it's like, here we go. So guy coming at me, I double leg, I change levels, double leg the shit out of him. I mount him, just start punching him in the face, and I spin an arm lock. Right, something I'd done 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And I got this, and I'm taking it. I'm like, I'm taking this dude's arm fucking home. And I catch movement out of the corner of my eye, and here comes a kick. And I turned my head just in time, and I had a sneaker from the bottom of the sneaker right on my face.
Damn.
Yeah. So I got up, and we finished the altercation pretty quickly after that. But that could have went different.
Yeah.
Real fucking different. So I went home that night. Now, thankfully, my wife at that time was working overnight, so she didn't see my face until the next morning, and I lied to her and told her it happened at Jiu Jitsu.
The universal excuse.
Having
Broke my arm at Jiu Jitsu, honey.
Yeah.
All those weird those marks on your neck. Oh, got it.
Jiu Jitsu.
Practice.
Yeah. Every time we'd be going out, she would say, no fighting. And, but to my credit, it wasn't anything I had started. But, yeah, man, I sat down for weeks after that and just led up to everything like, hey, the way I was trained with my jiu-jitsu, while it was fight jiu-jitsu because it was Gracie jiu-jitsu and it was always about fights, I realized that Royce had never addressed the possibility of multiple opponents.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu didn't address that. And that was a critical sticking point for me. So I went back and I dismantled everything. And if a technique caused me to leave a dominant position, it immediately got thrown out of my curriculum. Now, I'll teach it for sport, but not for fight, because I have two very distinct curriculums. I have my fight curriculum, I have my sport curriculum.
Yeah.
It would so in a situation like that where I had to leave the mount for an arm lock, nope, never again. Stay in mount.
Yeah.
Beat his face in until he turns over and choke him out.
Yeah.
Or gift wrap him, something like that. do I have the ability to disengage from you if it's a multiple opponent scenario? So, a position like crossbody, where I can hold you in crossbody all day long, doesn't necessarily allow me to disengage from you if your buddy starts sprinting towards us, because you could hug me. Or I never see him because I don't have eyes on the crowd. So the fight curriculum that I teach now is much, much different than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's evolved. And it's evolved to a point where people love it, particularly the law enforcement community. Where they're like, dude, your curriculum, we've done any imaginable training you can do. By far, you have the most comprehensive curriculum for law enforcement.
That is awesome. That's something we wanted to get into. Can you talk to us a little bit about like that program that you run for law enforcement? Because he was just telling me about that yesterday.
I just talked to Shane Smith, and he was telling me about it. He said that, here, I'll pull up the message now. He was saying that you were, I think, maybe one of the only gyms certified in MOPEC. Which is Municipal Police Officer Training Education Commission or something like that.
Correct. Yeah. So I first got into, I was still a purple belt at the time when I first got into jiu-jitsu for law enforcement. Hoist was going to be doing a week-long seminar, and it was down in Virginia, like right outside the D.C. area. Anything that had letters was there. So you had like DEA, FBI, CIA, like you had, if it had initials, it was there to learn it, right? So they were sending their defensive tactics instructors to Hoist for the week. And then these defensive tactics instructors would, of course, go back to their departments and teach them. So that was my first glimpse of jiu-jitsu for law enforcement. And it blew my mind. I was like, why doesn't every police officer have to learn jiu-jitsu? Like it should be. Now that was 2009. Here we are in 2023, and it's just now becoming normal for police officers to learn jiu-jitsu. So very much like I did with my fight curriculum, my police curriculum was very much the same thing. Control, cuffing, right? There's no tap out for police officers. It's I have to get you in cuffs. Firearm. There's a firearm in the fight. I know for a fact there's a weapon in the fight, so my jiu-jitsu must change. Right? Multiple opponents, right? They're dealing with that stuff all the time. Optics. Optics is huge, right? Like what's the outside optics of the people? What are they seeing? Right? If they're seeing an officer beat the brakes off of somebody, we get riots. Right? If you see an officer body clinch, take them out of position, walk them up, get their arms above their head, turn them over, put them in cuffs without a punch ever being thrown.
I gotta show this video real quick.
Awesome.
I know he showed me the video that he's about to show, and we'll put it in the pod for you guys at home. It was awesome because I thought it was like it was probably the safest and most effective scenario that could have taken place in this video. And it was just like a video of a guy. He was
well-trained police officers can handle themselves. Ill-trained police officers cause problems. And that's why we went and we got our certification, our program certified through MOPEC, which is the governing body out of Harrisburg that approves programs for police training. And we're the only jiu-jitsu school in the area that has that stamp of approval from the Pennsylvania government.
I think that's extremely important that you guys do that. Because, you see videos of cops that are in foot pursuit and can't even really hustle 40 yards, like let alone.
I can't find it.
Yeah, we have about we have probably about 40 officers training regularly right now at headquarters. And I know at each of the 7 Nation Army locations, officers. So across the whole Army, I don't know how many officers we have training, but I have a training pod coming up in October. It'll be a week-long camp at headquarters, and we'll probably have 30 officers. We did it not too long ago where we had 20 officers come in. For me right now, it's a passion point.
Now you were referencing like working jiu-jitsu for these officers and cuffing, disarming, and like handling.
This is jiu-jitsu cop. Sorry.
So
he got the double wrist control.
Yep. See right there, he closed the distance. He's controlling the hands so that the weapon is not accessible. All right. Hip toss. Yeah. Yep, right to crossbody. Not a huge fan of crossbody, but he's going to move right into cuffing. Yeah.
Throw a Kimura setup.
Yep.
Went to, it looked like an S mount here.
Yep. Yep, he's going to come right over into the what we call the safe cuff position right there. Yep.
That's badass.
Yep.
And then there it is.
That's it.
But yeah, no,
that's what, I mean, imagine if every law enforcement official could do that.
Yeah. So like
we wouldn't have problems.
My question was though, is like, how do you as a coach effectively teach something like that? Like obviously like you're very weathered in the sport of jiu-jitsu, but like from a law enforcement perspective, like how do you teach that?
Like I do any of my curriculums. It starts with I use what's called in the education world scaffolding. So very much like you would see scaffolding built on the outside of a building.
Yeah.
That's how you teach people jiu-jitsu. You teach them, okay, this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level, and we're building and building and building and building. So my curriculum for law enforcement is very much the same as my curriculum for fight jiu-jitsu. I have it divided into 2, I call them blocks. So I have a block on standing, a block on the guard, a block on mount, a block on blah, 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 right? And each of those blocks then is divided into sections, the top and the bottom of the altercation. So the top, amount, the bottom. And then within that, again, we're scaffolding. Now the techniques are added in. And the techniques all go together so that by the end of the 40-hour course for these officers, they have a very, very clear master blueprint of how an altercation is going to occur. And throughout it, we do what I call arrest flows. So, for instance, bad guy takes a punch at the officer, he covers, closes the distance, achieves the body lock, takes him down to the mounted position. Now we go through the mount controls, now we move to gift wrap, and now we move into the cuffing sequence. I have dozens upon dozens of those training things because in any altercation, you are going to devolve to your level of training. So if your brain knows those arrest flows cold, you can get hit with that punch and still keep going. And that's what happens with the wiring of jiu-jitsu. Your brain just goes on autopilot and wham. And I've experienced that. Where I got hit blindsided once by a guy and woke up with him in my guard and then proceeded to strangle the shit out of him for sucker punching me. But my brain definitely turned off for a second, and somehow my body just just said, "Hey, do jiu-jitsu."
That's insane. But I heard that now it's mandatory for police officers to go through this.
It's going,
annually, I think it is.
I think it's going to, from what I'm hearing, it's going to be mandated that all training, all defensive tactics training must contain an element of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Isn't that fascinating?
That is tough.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Is that the only martial art that they're saying?
I think it's the only one they're mandating.
Okay.
It must have a component of it. So they're not saying like you have to exclusively train jiu-jitsu, but whatever training you are doing must have a component of jiu-jitsu in it. And
that
that's now where we get into going back to the McDojos. These McDojos are going to try to capitalize on that crap.
Yes.
It's going to be, we have jiu-jitsu, we teach jiu-jitsu, and you don't. You don't, bro.
Imagine how much more efficient law enforcement would be if all the cops had like a blue belt, purple belt.
Yeah. That's the goal of Adopt a Cop. The Adopt a Cop program is they sponsor officers at academies all over the world. They pay for their training, they pay for their tuition until they earn a blue belt, and it's no cost to the officer.
Yeah, I mean, there would likely be a lot of situations avoided.
Yes,
because
it would be.
I think there is the ego dissolution thing, so I think cops might be able to let go of like they're hurting my pride, so I have to make it.
Yeah, one of my officers, actually he was Chuck Majorana. He works with the state police. He was actually critical in the development of the program because we would be practicing it all the time. Is this a good technique? Is this a bad technique? Because I've arrested 0 people in my life, so I don't know. Can you guys even do this technique under legal standard? So he was instrumental in the development of this. But he would refer to it as the illusion of toughness. He said there's something that happens in police officers' brain when they put the vest on and click
the badge,
and they put the badge and they click the utility belt. He goes, they think they're fucking Batman. As soon as they go, they're like, I'm Batman. He's like, 95% of them couldn't punch their way out of a paper bag.
That's crazy,
but
isn't it?
they have this illusion of toughness.
Yeah.
And that's what causes problems because you're scared. And now you do this.
And then shit starts to be
viral,
viral, and there's riots. And Things just unnecessary things happen.
But when you train to a level, certainly not, black belt, but you train to a level of a really good blue belt, a lot of that fear goes away.
Yeah.
Because again, you go back to that mindset of like, I know I can handle this guy.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of him now.
Yeah.
I don't have to beat my chest. I don't have to, again, one of those like moments of not having to use it. I'll talk out of school. It's Tyler's story, but it's a funny story. The Green Frog, Scranton, near the University of Scranton, guy bird dogging Tyler all night, just watching him. Tyler's going back to the bathroom. Guy steps right in front of him and just looks at him. And Tyler looks him dead in the eyes and goes, "Don't."
I can hear him saying it too.
The guy just wanted
the guy who just walked away.
Wow. Tyler has this thing.
It was just that confidence.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Tyler says when somebody knows how to fight, you could smell it on them.
You can smell it on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That this man could
Tyler's a bad dude, man. I love
like,
Tyler.
I know I can kill you.
Yeah.
So don't make me do that, please.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Once you train to that level, you just and then I think there's a point in there too where that everybody experiences, like when they get to a level where they know they're good, they're like want to prove it. It's like an itch you got to scratch.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh man, I hope something pops off tonight.
Yeah.
And then you start doing shit to pop something off, or you say a little boom, boom, because you want to do it.
Yeah.
And
that's no good.
Everybody goes through that. Everybody I've ever known that does jiu-jitsu goes through that, where they're like, man, I wish that guy would have taken a swing at me.
Yeah. Did that thought ever cross your mind?
Why,
bro?
When I was a dumb purple belt, yeah. No, it's two very different people, purple belt Jeff and Tyler loves telling stories about purple belt Jeff. Loves it. He was a prick.
Yeah.
He was a prick. Yeah.
So what was your progression like throughout the belt ranks of jiu-jitsu? How did your game evolve, and then how did your character evolve?
Yeah. So white to blue was very much like most people's, just taking daily beatings and just being too stupid to quit. Just coming back for another beating and another beating, not being able to get out of bed. And my wife goes, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to jiu-jitsu."
Taking shit personally at that
you
point,
can't
right?
walk. I know I can't walk, but I'm getting to jiu-jitsu, Blue belt to purple belt. That's where I started to refine, or I should say expand, not refine. I started to expand knowledge. So what worked for me and what didn't, right? But I wouldn't know what worked for me if I didn't try it. So like you said, rubber guard, So I studied rubber guard. That doesn't work for me. I'm not built that way. I'm not lanky enough. I've got thick thighs, and it just doesn't work. So I would be experimenting with things. Purple belt was refinement. Now I was sharpening tools. And competing a lot and wanting to fight MMA more. And that's where I really got into fostering other people, coaching other people. Brown belt, then it became blueprints. Then that's where the blueprints really began for me, was trying to get a better understanding of, say, cataloging the knowledge I had. I had all this knowledge, but it wasn't cataloged. It was just kind of thrown in a room, and it's like, here, there's all my jiu-jitsu knowledge. And I knew where everything was. Right, I could pull it right out. Oh, here's what you're looking for. Right, but I wanted other people to be able to sort through it, and that's when I started doing blueprints.
I see.
And then black belt I focused on becoming a better teacher, a better communicator.
Well, it's often said that being able to teach something makes you better at that thing.
Yes.
Right. So being able to teach somebody else math would probably help you to become a better mathematician.
Yes. Yeah, I believe that for sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely became a better practitioner the more I was instructing, because I had to understand the techniques more intimately. So for sure, that's a thing.
That's an interesting concept, for sure.
Some people are really good at doing things too, but are not very good at describing to others how to do them.
Yeah. There's lots of people who do that. Yeah. There's lots of people who do. I know. You get these guys like an Andre Galvao, who's an amazing practitioner, but he's not a great teacher, right? And then you get a guy like a Henner Gracie, who's an incredible orator, and he can make you understand techniques, but what's his body of work as far as competition goes? Really nothing, But as long as you're the best in your role, I think that's,
What is your understanding of the origin of jiu-jitsu? Because I watched a bit of
I
watched a documentary, and I think it originated in Japan, right?
It did, yeah. So it did. Everybody has their own little. So there's the Elio Gracie lineage telling of it,
The 5 brothers, right?
Yeah. And then there's somewhere the truth lies within there somewhere, you know. It's been a very, I feel like, you know, Elio's been made into like a mythological being. Certainly he's earned that right to be. I'm not discounting that. But I think there's some fluff within the story. You know, so Count Kamda comes over from Japan. He's like the best Japanese jiu-jitsu fighter. At that time, the Gracie family was involved somewhat in the political arena. You know, they had influence. So he stays with them, and as thanks for, you know, room board, all of that, he's teaching the brothers jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
His style, Japanese style of jiu-jitsu, you know. Now, this is where things start to take that, you know, writer's libation, so to speak. But the brothers wouldn't let Elio practice because he was frail, and he would pass out walking upstairs and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, Elio would just watch them and, you know, learn it in his mind. And he was adapting things that were big and powerful, because Japanese jiu-jitsu is more like judo, where like strength matters, you know. So Elio was in his mind refining techniques and this and this. And one day, you know, Carlos showed up late for a lesson, so Elio got off the chair and taught this wonderful lesson to some doctor or something. And you know, then he became the professor, and he, you know, the students promoted him to the professor because he was so. No, dude. No.
Fascinating.
No. I mean, it's a fascinating story, but it's not how it happened.
Yeah.
You know, I spent a lot of time within the Gracie family, and they're like any other family. They like to gossip a little bit and talk a little bit. And, you know, it's the reality of it is, you know, Elio was watching his brothers, and then grabbing his little friends and going down and on the beach and practicing shit. And you know, you don't get good at jiu-jitsu by not doing it.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're trying to tell people like you just sat there and created it, it just doesn't hold water. You know, the reality of it is you were sneaking off and practicing jiu-jitsu. You know, that's it. And he got good at it. You know, and he became family champion and tested it and had the family. You know, he had the army. He was literally out just creating children, 2 wives, just pumping out kids. So that he could have a jiu-jitsu army to unleash on the world, and that's what he did.
And it just took over.
It took over, yeah. I mean, there's this idea of, again, like going back to the idea of, you know, martial arts and, you know, jiu-jitsu is this beautiful thing. No, jiu-jitsu was created by a man with a giant ego and a really good penchant for fighting. He had a whole bunch of kids, created an army, and unleashed them on dojos all over Brazil.
Yeah.
Like, just, you're in there practicing your karate one day, and here comes the Gracie family to beat you up.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything to warrant it, you know. Now they did the challenge matches and then had UFCs, but they were bullies, man. They were, you know,
that style
they were
of marketing
beating
was
people
crazy.
up.
Yeah.
You know? Like just thuggery.
It's like proof, though. Like, hey, you can't fuck with me.
Right? Yes. And it was brilliant. I'm not going to say it wasn't brilliant, but I think it gets fantasized.
Yeah.
You know? No, they were bad motherfuckers who were gonna knock on your door.
Yeah.
You know, or offer you an insane amount of money to come fight them.
It's pretty interesting because they're like modern day conquerors in a way.
They are.
Yeah.
You know, they civilized shit.
Like recently.
They fuck shit up, and they're like, yo, this is how it's going to be done now.
The Gracie family did more for martial arts in a 10-year period than anything prior to them.
Yeah.
It hadn't changed in 1,000 years. And they were a flashpoint where it evolved.
That's fascinating.
It is.
Think about.
And it's interesting because
they're still
never,
among us too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yes. Yeah.
You never hear about families like that in like wrestling or boxing or judo or anything like that.
Yeah, you really don't have a lot of dynasties within
No.
other, you know, I mean, they are a dynasty. The Machado brothers is a dynasty.
Yeah.
You know.
But most people, if you're getting into jiu-jitsu, though, you know who they are, which is
Right.
crazy. Like, I know who the Gracies were before I started doing
Yes.
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Most people
which
do.
is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they have a wild legacy that was left upon the entirety of North America. Like I said, just the way that they spread this art across our country, like gospel, and you could virtually compete in jiu-jitsu everywhere in our entire country now because of one family.
Yep.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah. All they did was fight and fuck. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. That
Nothing
was the
else?
family hobbies. Fight and fuck. I think at one point they actually lost count of like the number of, you know, Gracie family members.
The body count?
Yeah. Yeah, I think at one point there was 73 active Gracie family members fighting in an organization,
Oh my
whether it was
God.
UFC or Pride or wherever it was.
Yeah, it's a big family.
73.
It's a big family.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for all of them to be competing like that,
Yeah.
like you might have a family in today's day and age where just if that one person in the household trains.
Yeah.
It's not typically a big family endeavor. I
No.
mean, we got a couple of those at our gym, but
Yeah.
so what does that leave for you now? What does your life consist of nowadays?
Nowadays,
Cooking.
cooking.
Yeah, that was
Cooking and Disney, man. That's it. That's it. Those
What-
are my two hobbies.
what was going
you
on
know?
too. I just seen earlier before we started this pod, Dungeons and Dragons. What's going on there?
D&D,
too?
yeah. I started playing D&D when it first came out.
Yeah.
When it was like you had to play it in the basement because there was demons and shit. You know,
Yeah.
like that was
Yeah.
really like what you see on like Stranger Things and stuff, where it has to be hidden away, and that was it back then. Now it's really popularized. And, you know, a lot of celebrities play it and everything, but yeah, man, I've been playing it since I was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 50 now.
Jiu-Jitsu
So-
cats are different type of people. Like they're very
Yeah,
unique
man.
individuals.
Very unique,
Individualistic.
across the
eclectic.
board.
Yeah. So that I don't really play as much as now as I used to, but yeah, I'll still get together with my buddies every once in a while
Yeah.
from college, and you know we'll tell old stories, play a little D&D, and yeah.
So outside of jiu-jitsu, you're just living
Man,
it up.
That's I'm very low key outside
Yeah.
of jiu-jitsu. You know, I prefer to stay home and cook.
Yeah.
I find cooking for me is fascinatingly relaxing.
Yes, therapeutic.
It's so good. I can arrange ingredient. I can turn my brain off because, you know, again, like even though we're not being violent in the gym every day, the thought process is violent. Like I make a living off of violence.
Yeah.
So even though, like I said, we're not ripping each other's faces off, you are rolling. You're simulating murder every day. You're talking about, you know, techniques that are lethal or meant to maim people. Like that can take a toll on your psyche if you don't dump it.
I see.
Right. So that for me is cooking, and that for me is Disney.
Yeah.
Cooking is task oriented.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's got to be on time. So like my brain has to kind of not think about jiu-jitsu because I got to be thinking like, hey, that's gonna burn if you don't pay attention.
Yeah.
And then like Disney is just Disney, where it's like it's all fantasy. It's all made up. So it's like you
What's
can
your
go down
favorite-
there and just unplug.
What's your favorite Disney movie?
You know, that's a good one. Probably The Lion King.
Lion King.
I like The Lion.
Did you like the
Yeah.
one that they did, like the live action? where
No,
it was
no,
like-
the cartoon. I'm talking
Yeah.
cartoon. Yeah.
What was it? Did you
cartoon.
enjoy that one though? Like, did you like the live action one?
I don't know if I saw it, to be honest with you.
Okay, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's an older one though too. I mean, not as old as the original Lion King, but I think that movie's like closer to 10 years old now.
Yeah, but we'll
think we
we'll
went
go
to
down
see
to
that.
Disney a couple times a year, me and the wife.
Really?
Yeah, take
Never
the,
been to
take the
Disneyland.
granddaughter down, and we just don't. We're going down in September. We'll go down and we'll do 3 pub crawls while we're down there. Like we're not even going in the parks. You know, everybody thinks like Disney parks, but there's like this whole, you know, culture of food and drink and everything down there.
Really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
So just same thing. You would do a pub crawl here. You know, we'll go down there and do a pub crawl and
Pub crawl.
yeah.
I
I
heard that.
never heard
You
that.
never heard of a
Tim.
pub crawl?
Never.
No. Yeah.
I'd imagine that has to do with like drinking, right?
So yeah.
Yeah,
So
we don't drink a
what a
lot.
pub crawl is like so they'll have like a Christmas pub crawl or a Halloween pub crawl or whatever, where you have these different bars, and they have a bunch of them they do here locally. Different bars in different neighborhoods, and they're all going to have like a certain like small menu that you choose from, and then you buy your pub crawl. Like so, let's say it's $100, right? Well, you know, pub A you're getting a drink, pub B you're getting a drink, C, D. And then there's always like a theme, like the Christmas one, everybody dresses up in a Santa Claus costume, and then you're going from pub to pub and Santa Claus,
That's cool.
you know, whatever it is.
okay.
So now down there we won't do that. We'll just do like a each bar within Disney has a signature drink, where
Okay.
you can only get that drink at that bar. So that's what we'll
Ah.
do. We'll like go to each individual one and sample their drink menu and what have you. And it's just again,
That's
you're in the
cool.
sun and you're decompressing, and I'm
Yeah.
not thinking about jiu-jitsu and
Yeah.
I gotta win
whatever.
something first. I gotta win something before I go to Disneyland, so I can stand up on that stage. You know,
You
the
gotta get
classic,
ready
like,
in your first competition.
Yeah.
you know, like that classic, like Super Bowl speech, like "We're going to Disneyland."
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I gotta win some shit
Yeah.
before I go.
yeah. But other than that, man, it's chilling with my dog.
There you go. I mean, that's beautiful.
Throw the dog, go for a walk in the park or whatever, or just
Yeah.
sit there and on the back porch and chill.
Living the well, you're not necessarily retired, but the retired samurai life.
Yeah, it's kind of what it is. It really is. You know, you're decluttering your life. You know, going back to that, you know, the idea of living my life stoically is,
Yeah.
you know, you don't have a lot of attachments, you know, physical attachments or worldly attachments. You know, like I'm not out buying new shoes.
Yes.
You know, shoes I got on are probably 3 years old. You know,
Mm.
Tyler always makes fun of the way I dress. He's like, "You look like somebody hit What's he always say? You look like somebody started a video game and just hit random. Right? Because I just don't care about like jewelry and clothing, and it's just not my thing, man. I don't have, I probably have about 10 T-shirts. 8 of them probably say Gracie NEPA on it.
That's good, though, because it's an unnecessary hyperfixation. Like, that's a problem with a lot of the younger people, like in our generation. It's like money, clothes, jewelry, cars. Right. It's like that's something everybody's interested in at a younger age.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's what's inundated in music. Yeah. It's what's inundated in video games. It's the Instagram lifestyle. Yeah. Everybody wants to be Insta famous now and whatever. It's what's popularized as making you a good person. Yeah. Like,
it's a persona.
Man. Yeah. Yeah, they're selling an image. Yeah. And now you think you have to have that. You have to think you have to be just like them to have any self-worth. Oh man, if I don't have a cool watch and fly sneakers and the best, I don't have any self-worth. Oh, bro,
What's crazy about it is it looks like it works. I think that's the problem. It's like people see these guys sitting on Lamborghinis with nice watches on and beautiful ladies, and they think, oh, like that's gonna solve all of my problems. But like truthfully, you don't really know what that guy is going through behind the scenes, or like at night when he puts his phone down and he's by himself with his own thoughts. Like, what's that guy thinking about?
Things won't bring you fulfillment.
No. Again, going back to that idea of like customer service, like I have no idea what kind of day you had before you came in the doors at headquarters. Yeah. But I know the kind of day you're gonna have while you're there, and it's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah. And then when you leave, you're probably gonna feel better. But, I don't know what your day was like, man. I'm gonna go back to we had a guy that was training with us quite a long time, 2 years maybe, but we called him Rasco. Dude, on the outside, this kid was he would walk into a room and you're like, damn, he's here. All right. Yeah. Man, this is going to be it's Rasco, man. And he comes to a noon class. Was a Monday, noon. We train. Awesome. He's wearing his Hulk Hogan rash guard with the spats, like it's a whole matching thing, right? Crazy. Dude was just fun, man. And I wake up Tuesday morning and I'm looking at his real name was Tyler. Rasco is what we called him, but I have a message that says, "Hey man, have you talked to Tyler since yesterday?" I'm thinking like, "No, what's going on?" Like, I don't talk to Tyler every day, but because I'm thinking Tyler Calvi now, right? So I messaged him back. It's like 4:30 in the morning. No man, why? Why? What's up? Is he in jail? Does he need bail? Like, what's up? And they're like, "No, not Tyler Calvi, Rasco. I mean, no, why? What's up? Nobody can find him. Nobody's seen him." Long story short, he left jiu-jitsu practice, went to his apartment, killed himself.
Oh, my God.
Right? And so you never know what's going on with somebody, right? So, like, that 1 hour that he spent in that gym with everybody, like, laughing and having fun and doing jiu-jitsu was one of his last hours on the planet. Yeah. And, it's one of those things like, hey, man, everything comes to an end. Life, works, jobs, families, marriages, whatever. Everything has an eventual ending in death, right? Yeah. It's the time. It's what we do with that time, right? And for him to have a final hour with people who gave a shit about him and surrounded by him, and we just had fun laughing, doing jiu-jitsu. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It is.
It's a tragedy. I don't want to missell it that it's not a tragedy, but it's pretty cool that he got to do that before he died. Yeah.
That's probably how he planned it. If I had to really think,
I honestly think he did. Yeah, honestly, where he was just like, this is going to be my goodbye, so to speak.
That's what I always say. Like, if there's any way I want to go out, I want it to be doing something I love, or like around the people I love.
Yeah, and I want to go out in a blaze of glory, like just surrounded by like Russian vodka and Asian hookers. Like
I gotta go piss real quick.
Oh man,
like I want something memorable. Yeah. Like, hey man, did you hear about the way Jeff died? ... Like
no, that's a good point though. I made that point before. Like, I don't want my funeral to be sad like that. Like, I want it to be like, I'm a goofball. Like, I'm a silly individual. I don't want it to be too sad.
Yeah, I want celebration of life. Yeah, like celebrate what I did. I think we mourn for ourselves, right? You're not mourning the dead. Yeah, because the dead They're dead. They don't
Yeah.
fucking know. You mourn for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
man, I feel so sad. I'm not going to see grandma tomorrow. I feel so sad. I'm not going to get to, hear words of wisdom from my father anymore.
Yeah.
So you feel sad with that,
Yeah.
right? But why? Like if you had an amazing life with that person, celebrate it. Like,
Yes.
like think about, man, I remember that time my dad, da, 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 da. Hey, I remember my time, my brother, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, like, make it positive.
Some people
know?
do a very good job at that. Like, I think there's always one of those guys. Like, I haven't been to too many funerals in my life, luckily, but like, it seems like there's always that guy that's able to make it seem right. If that makes sense. Like, make it okay. Or at least like, just like take the edge off.
Yeah.
And I think you need that. That's
you
important.
do. It's important.
Yeah.
Again, kind of going back to what Darrian was saying, you're not bottling up your emotion. You just feel emotion a different way.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel glad that this person had such an amazing life.
Or just internalizing it for what it is, not necessarily letting it consume you. Yeah.
I don't know why people fear death. It's death. We're all going to die.
Is that
everything on the planet is going to die?
That's interesting you said that. Is that a concept that you've always had, or did it take you a while to realize that, or did it take you a longer instance of life to realize that you weren't necessarily?
I don't know. I don't ever remember feeling sad at a funeral. Ever. Even from being young and my grandmother passing away. And I don't ever remember feeling sadness like most people do at a funeral, where they're going to cry and they're going to, because again, you're crying for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, we're crying for our own loss. Yeah. But what they gave you outweighs that. So why not?
I would like to say that I relate to that in a way, but I've never lost somebody, and knock on wood, like, I've never lost anybody close enough to me to the point where I've had to be faced with that. But I know at the same time, like, that's why I was saying I relate to you in that way, but I know I'm scared of death. Like, he and I talk about that pretty often. Yeah. And it's like, what's odd about it, though, is I recognize what it is. It's not like I don't understand what death means or what it means to the people around you or what it means to your legacy or just your life in general, but it definitely still is in the back of my mind at all times. And I think that's kind of what fear stems from as well. Like, I'm scared of certain things, like heights, for example, freak me out. Yeah. I think the reason why I'm scared of heights is deeper than just the fact that I'm scared of heights, is that I'm scared of death.
Scared of dying.
Yeah, I don't want to die.
Yes, exactly.
So
and it's not to say you invite death. Like, I'll always say, like, I have no interest in skydiving. Yeah. And people are like, why, are you afraid of it? I'm not afraid of anything. Yeah. I don't have fear. I just don't invite death. There's lots of ways that you can die skydiving. Like, I just don't want to do it.
Just because you're not scared of death doesn't mean you want to die.
No, right. It doesn't mean I want to die, but you're prepared for it. You're and that's the inevitability of it. Yeah. Thanos had it right. It's the inevitable.
Yeah. The people.
You are going to die, so why fear it?
It's hard not to.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard not to.
Because it seems like we cling to this thing. We cling to.
Yeah, I can tell you, I know for a fact, because it's one of those things, like, when people go, well, that's easy to say. It is, but I've experienced it. Yeah. I was going, my wife, well, now my wife, but we were still dating at the time. I was going to see her, and at that time I had a Mazda 6, 5-speed on the floor. Thing was fucking fast, and I'm flying, right? And I'm on Route 80, just outside of Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. Great wrestling school, by the way. And they were doing some construction work, so they had it milled, half milled. And I caught the edge with the tire, and right into 360 spins. Damn. Right across both lanes, into the shoulder, skid in. Got out the car. I bet my heart rate wasn't any higher than it is right now sitting here. Wow. And that's when I realized, I was like, damn, I could have died right there. Yeah. Got back in the car, drove, and saw my girlfriend. She's like, how was your drive? Well, this happened. And she's freaking out. Like, how are you so calm? How are you so nervous? We all die.
Do you think that has anything to do with the idea of the near-death experience that jiu-jitsu brings? Like, anything at all?
It could, but this was pre-jiu-jitsu even. So I think I'm just wired that. Again, I think I was just wired that way. Yeah. It was just something that I've never really crossed my mind.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys learned a lot today.
Yeah, no, we did. We almost ran 2 hours.
We have a lot more stories, but
we'll do it again.
Let's do it again.
We'll pay another visit. Yeah. Maybe we'll go down the old jiu-jitsu stories.
Yeah.
Being on the road with Hoyce and
Yeah.
some of the craziness
Yeah.
that.
And have you ever been to his gym? I
experienced.
was gonna say maybe we
Yeah.
can come check your gym
Yeah.
out at some point. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
awesome.
So, Jeffries, this was an amazing conversation. I'm very happy we made this happen. You want to tell the people where they can find you and also how they can
Come
enroll for
train.
your classes, come train?
Yeah, man. You go to GracieNEPA.com. All of the 7 Nation Army locations are there. You just drop us a line in the, start training now, and it's that simple.
2 weeks free, right?
2
That's
weeks
typically
free.
how it
You
goes.
get 2 weeks free. And something I tell people about that 2-week free trial that I'll share with you guys, and people are often surprised when I tell them that 2-week free isn't for a new person coming through the door. All right, I know you're going to love jiu-jitsu. I know it.
Yeah.
That 2 weeks free is to make sure you fit the culture.
Mm.
Do you fit the culture
Yeah.
of our jiu-jitsu gym?
What is the culture?
I would say the culture of our jiu-jitsu gym is every single person that's standing on the mat gives a shit about the person to the left and the right of them.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
When you look at it, and again, the idea, the birth of the 7 Nation Army started as just an offhanded joke that Ned made, or Tyler made. One of them made it.
Uncle Ned.
Uncle Ned, yeah. And it became a thing, out of just a little tongue-in-cheek joke. But it truly is that way. Like, it's a family.
Yeah.
It really is, and I'm going to defend my family, to the death. And it's we fight like family too. We're trying to kill each other all the time, choke each other out, punching each other in the face, and we just get there, man.
It's
We
weird
just get there.
how jiu-jitsu brings people together. Like, you're trying to kill the person
Yeah.
that you're rolling with. And,
Yeah.
and oddly enough, jiu-jitsu people are some of the kindest people in the world.
Yes, yeah. Well, again, because it goes back to what you can do to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why be mean? Why be angry? Why be, even if you don't know jiu-jitsu, why
Yeah.
be that? But just Bill and Ted, just love everybody, man.
Yeah.
Just be excellent.
Be kind.
That's it. Just
All right.
be excellent. So
All right, boys and
guys,
girls.
thank you.
It's another, episode. We got it done here. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend. Make sure to check out Jeff Reese in the description below. Besides that,
Love you guys.
we love you
Subscribe.
guys.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man, that was awesome.